Good afternoon. Welcome to 30 Frames a Second. We got a great show for you today, but before we start, this is a sad moment in history. We just found today, just a couple seconds ago, Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, has passed away. Our condolences goes out to the Franklin family. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
In the opinion of the court, the legislation and histories of the times, and the language used in the Declaration of Independence show that neither the class of persons who had been imported as slaves, nor their descendants, whether they had become free or not, were then acknowledged as a part of the people, nor intended to be included in the general words used in that memorable instrument. They had for more than a century before been regarded as beings of an inferior order and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either in social or political relations, and so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect, and that the Negro must justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery for his benefit. He was bought and sold and treated as an ordinary article of merchandise and traffic whenever a profit could be made by it. This opinion was at that time fixed and universal in the civilized portion of the white race. No one, we presume, supposes that any change in public opinion or feeling in relation to this unfortunate race in the civilized nations of Europe or in this country should induce the court to give to the words of the Constitution a more liberal construction in their favor than they were intended to bear when the instrument was framed and adopted.
Are you ready? Don't you know this ain't this man? So listen very close because we got a little bit. Gonna have to HB for rich and poor people, gonna burn all the rich and shit. Got all these people, see friends and nickels upside down. Tell them we're ready for that, that's really fucking fun. Let's kill the police, I'll be saying a little more. When it comes from your door, don't forget to turn the gear. Are you ready to stop? You're up blue, there's like a girl as a cop. I'm dead. Are you ready? Living above the law.
Welcome back to 30 Frames a Second. I'm your host, Greg Lassiter, here with the creator, the producer, the mastermind, the genius himself, Nat Wood. Nat, how are you, baby?
Good. That ain't what my mama said, but
she called you everything but, right?
Yeah.
Nat, there's a lot going on. Let's talk about the worst decision the U.S. Supreme Court ever made, ever delivered, and that was Dred Scott versus Sanford.
Right.
Actually,
Dred Scott versus Sanford.
Yes.
Right.
Now, in case I'm sure some of the millennials don't know what the Dred Scott decision was, this is your baby.
They need to know.
They need to know. Explain
they need to know.
Let's explain what the Dred Scott decision was.
At the time, other states wanted to get into the Union. And the Union was split right down the middle, free states and slave states. And Missouri wanted to get in. There were a couple of states that wanted to get in. And they drew up this thing called the Missouri Compromise.
Right.
It was a compromise to keep the balance of power even. It was not a compromise to give more free states an advantage, and it didn't want to give more slave states an advantage. Dred Scott was, I think he was the property of a soldier,
a surgeon.
A surgeon.
Right.
And the surgeon was called to duty.
Right.
And in the course of that, they took Dred Scott from a slave state to a free state.
Right. Right. He had sold. Dred Scott had sold. Was sold.
Correct.
Was sold by his master at the time.
Correct.
To go to another guy to go to a free state.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The short part of the story is that Dred Scott maintained that because he was in a free state, he was no longer a slave. He actually wanted to get himself and his family out of slavery.
Right.
So they had this big Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court decision was actually 4 years in the making because they wanted to delay the decision till after the election and after the inauguration, and it was like justice slow.
Right.
But basically, the worst decision in the world was the decision that you just saw on the screen, the opinion that you just saw on the screen, the Supreme Court decision,
right,
which was a 7-2
majority, yeah,
majority decision.
And the Chief Justice at the time was Roger Taney.
Taney,
yes, right. Taney. And people don't understand how relevant that is to today.
Oh, man.
Because right as we have it right now, in the Supreme Court, the way it stands, the Supreme Court justice that's about to retire, Kennedy, was the swing vote.
Right.
Now, that's the reason why Congress and the Senate blocked Obama for placing
correct
a Supreme Court justice.
Correct.
Now, if Trump places a Supreme Court justice, it's going to be a 5-4 split.
Correct.
That can have devastating effects on what happens in the Constitution and the people in America, women and minorities.
Correct. The Supreme Court appointees are appointed for life.
For life. The only way they leave,
right,
is they die.
Is in a box.
Right.
Is in a box. That does have dire consequences. A lot of people don't understand the ramifications of that 7-2 decision. There was actually 2 dissensions.
Right.
One judge argued that 5 states already had that black males could already vote in 5 states, and if you could vote in 5 states, it meant that you were a citizen not just of that state,
right,
but of the United States
right,
of America.
Right.
Another judge argued that the judges had no jurisdiction to do this. That
but see, Scott lost
right,
in the lower state.
Correct.
And one of the reasons that they even went to the Supreme Court that got kicked up is they spelled the name wrong.
Right. Right.
They spelled, and believe it or not, when you spell your name wrong, that has a lot of bearing.
It was a perfect confluence of conditions, and it all came to an apex in the Supreme Court.
But now here's what I'm concerned. I'm concerned, but I'm not concerned, because we still have a black man, supposedly not supposedly, he is on the Supreme Court. Now, his decision when it comes to minorities, he could be affected by that. Think about it.
I don't know.
Because if you think about this, Nat, a 5'4" minority conservative that can change the language and the Constitution can affect a black person, a person of color.
Trump has had quite a few black folks latching on to him that could affect the
But the
life.
people of power, though, we're talking about power, people of power. See, he didn't appoint the black dude, Clarence Thomas.
Right.
He's not going anywhere.
Right.
So right now, we gotta hope that nothing, because Thomas is concerned. Trust me, he has to be concerned.
That sentence concerns me. We gotta hope is concerns me.
But but now it's not even about hope. He's
good.
At the end of the day,
because
at the end of the
me.
day, he's a black man.
I don't know what he is.
No, he's darker than me. No, he's a black man.
Yes, he is darker than you. Yes, he is darker than you.
So he's a black man. So whatever opinion he is concerned. There's a book that I just finished reading by, I can't think of her last name, but the book is called Democracy in Chains. And that book talks about the distractions. Guys, the biggest distraction we have in America right now is Donald Trump. And he's very good at distraction. He is a buffoon that look over here, and over here the backdoor deals are done. The Heritage Foundations, the Koch brothers, they're trying to push this conservative on Trump's agenda to the Supreme Court. That could change everything. There'd be no Medicare, there'd be no hospital, there'd be no equal rights. There'd be a lot of things that are gone.
A lot of people don't understand, and one of the main reasons why we featured the opinion of the 7 judges in the Dred Scott decision was that a lot of things happened subsequent to that decision. First of all, it completely threw the country in turmoil.
Right.
It facilitated the
Civil War.
The Civil War.
Right. That's exactly right.
And wars they say elections have consequences. Well, wars have consequences.
Right.
And one of the biggest issues that was not addressed, because we see the Dred Scott case as a case about Dred Scott, but it wasn't. Yeah. Actually, if you look at the opinion,
right.
In their opinion, they put all of black people on trial.
That's exactly
right. And judged them inferior, and because they were inferior, and this is some sort of barbaric conclusion.
And this was way before the Emancipation Proclamation. Right before the Emancipation Proclamation.
Well, it was right before. It was right before.
Because
but they ignored the Emancipation Proclamation.
Right. But right before that, that's when Lincoln got elected. Right after that.
It was
doing it right after that.
Right. This was 1857.
Right. It was a Wednesday.
Correct. Did they hand it out? Was it a Wednesday or Friday?
It was a Wednesday.
Okay.
It might have been a Friday. Wednesday. I don't know.
It was 1857 that this opinion.
It was a Friday.
This opinion was handed down. The opinion in and of itself had nothing to do with the decision, and the decision itself had nothing to do with jurisdiction.
Right.
They forced all of this on. All of this stuff about the black being an inferior race that no civilized European or white person would. All of that, none of this was there was no data on this. They threw this in spitefully,
right?
Just to make this white supremacist point. And this white supremacist point was coming from the Supreme Court of the land.
Which is still happening, which is still relevant to today.
That is correct. It is very relevant today.
But now think about this, though. How did the white race even become to think they were the superior race? Because we were slaves?
Donald Trump called Omarosa a dog. That's probably not the word he wanted to use.
He wanted to use BB.
But it goes hand in hand with, if you're going to dehumanize people, the first thing you do is verbally dehumanize them.
Right.
You call black people monkeys. You call them animals. You call, whenever you're talking about immigration, you throw in MS-13,
right.
like
it's water.
You know, like a million dreamers are all members of MS-13.
Right.
Whom the gods would destroy, they first say horrible things about them. Okay. So all of this was part and parcel. The Supreme Court opinion maintained that the African race, the black race,
right.
the Negro race was an inferior race, and so inferior that it was not even qualified to associate with the white race.
Socially?
Or politically.
That's insane. That's insane. That's insane.
But this is the Supreme Court.
The highest court in the land.
7-2. Not even like
5-4.
Slight. Right. 7-2. They said this. None of this had anything to do with the decision.
Right.
First of all, the whole decision, the case itself was about jurisdiction.
Right.
And about
That's where it started.
states' rights versus government, federal
rights. Right.
This is all it was about.
Right.
They threw in this. And Taney gets all of the blame for this, but Taney just read the opinion of the rest of the Supreme Court.
Right.
Yeah, it was seven of them.
But see, people don't understand that this is a worry. We really should be concerned.
Yes, we should be. Because, everybody should be.
Right. Not only black and brown people, yes, because once you start changing, it has never been done since 1857.
And remember something. There's a lot of things that people don't understand about that decision and what happened subsequently. Subsequently, the Civil War broke out.
Right.
Subsequently, the North won. Subsequently, in 1868, they introduced the 14th Amendment.
Right.
The 14th Amendment established federal rights over state rights.
That's where civil rights come from.
That's where everything comes from.
Right.
That's Brown versus Board of Education.
Right. That's right.
That's Roe v. Wade.
Yep.
That's even Bush versus Gore.
Right. That's right. That's right.
All of those decisions are directly a result of the 14th Amendment that established federal rights over states' rights. And one of the biggest things that they are arguing about now is states' rights. Whether or not states have rights.
But here's the thing, though. That's where the 5-4 comes in.
Correct.
7-2.
That's where everything comes in.
Because they're going to take away the states' rights and give it the federal rights.
That's right.
That was the checks and balances and checks and limitations that the majority in 1861, when Lincoln was given the oath of office.
Right.
You know, that was the checks and balances that America must have.
That is correct. That is correct.
Because
that is correct.
Once the federal government, the Supreme Court, makes a decision, it's final. Right.
It's very,
you can't appeal to anything harder.
Once it becomes Taney, Chief Justice Roger Taney, who handed down the opinion. He was like the first, or one of the first Supreme Court judges that
he was chief judge.
A purist. Right,
he was the chief judge. Yeah, he was the chief judge.
He was considered a constitutional purist.
Right.
But his interpretation of the Constitution was based upon whatever warped stuff was already in his head.
Right, that's right.
And that's the problem that a lot of quote-unquote constitutional purists have. The Constitution is what you make it out to be in your mind, and you then say you're keeping it pure.
Right.
You're not keeping it pure.
No, right.
You're keeping it pure in your own dirty mind.
Right, right.
You know.
And that's why I keep telling people, not only this affects black and brown people, this affects women and white people. This
affects education, it affects health
It affects
care.
everything in America that we supposedly stand for.
That's
you know,
right.
I don't believe we're not the greatest. We used to be the greatest country in the world.
Right.
There's no evidence.
We were post-civil rights era because if one thing we've learned, if one thing history has taught us is that everything is vigilance and everything is struggle.
Right.
And you're not going to wake up one morning into this panacea. You know, you're not gonna go to sleep in Mississippi and wake up in Atlantis.
Right. In your dreams.
Right. It's just not gonna happen. We were optimistic following the civil rights era.
Right.
Probably more optimistic than
we've ever been.
Right. That's not to say we had progressed farther than we've ever progressed.
Right.
But
hold on a second.
We were
Hold that
more
thought.
optimistic.
Were we ever progressed that far as we've ever been?
No.
You don't think so?
No. Because every time we've struggled to accomplish something or change something, forces that didn't want that thing changed found ways to
change it again.
Right, to change it again. So it's always been a struggle.
It's always going to be a struggle, but the struggle has stopped.
Right.
The struggle has stopped because, I don't know, is it the generational thing? But
remember the Emancipation Proclamation was signed 2 years before the Civil War.
Right.
2 years before. They just didn't tell anybody.
Right.
They just didn't.
And it didn't even come in effect.
Right. Well, if you don't tell anybody, and you have superior weaponry, and
that's
you
a
run
great
the state,
segue, Nat, to tell people, don't look over here, because this is the okie doke.
Right.
And I'm telling you guys, don't be distracted by this.
Right.
Because this right here, the Dred Scott decision, was the worst decision, but this is what they're trying to stack it again.
Correct.
They're trying to stack the court again.
Prologue.
Right. That's exactly right. You know what? We're not the greatest. It is clear that we're not the greatest country in the world anymore. There's no evidence of that. We're not free. People say we're free. We're not free. Japan's free. Sweden's free.
You know when America was the greatest country in the world? It was before Columbus. It kind of was.
Yeah.
I mean,
we had a black president before. There was a black president. Obama wasn't the first black president.
They said, "Come on in, white folks." White folks just burn their stuff down, and you know, America was the greatest country in the world before Columbus.
Right.
After that, it's been on a downhill slide, and along the way, it hasn't been a smooth slide. There's been bumps along the way, and we've tried to like roll that egg back up the mountain with our nose.
It's not happening.
But it keeps sliding back down.
And it goes harder because you get to a point.
Harder.
It comes down. It comes harder.
The closest we get, the harder it comes down.
But I see these protests, and I'm at these protests, and I hear the side, the white supremacy side saying, we want our country back. Guess what? This was never the white people's country.
That is correct.
How are you going to say you want something back when you stole it?
You stole it. You violently stole it.
So you feel good about stealing something and then say you want it back. So it's okay for you to steal it.
Right.
But when somebody's trying to steal it back, you're up in arms.
And America was always a robber baron nation. It was never a poor white folks nation.
Right.
There was a small window in history where actually white skin, as it relates to poor white people, had any upside at all. It certainly had no upside in Europe.
Right. Not even close.
You were either the king or
you're a peasant.
Nothing.
Right. You're a peasant. Right.
in America, it was not. The words would change from pursuit of
happiness.
Right. It was changed to pursuit of happiness,
Right.
but it was originally pursuit of property.
Right. That's exactly right.
You know,
Right. That's exactly right. And when the French gave us the Statue of Liberty,
Right.
a lot of people don't know
Right.
the first statue was a black woman.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
And then it was then the U.S. was up in arms about
Correct.
it to say we don't want that.
Correct.
So when they changed. At the same time, when they changed that verbiage, pursuit of property to the pursuit of happiness.
Correct.
Bring me your tired, bring me your the weary.
Correct.
And that has changed.
Which wealthy land-owning whites, the gentry,
right,
have always been able to manipulate the little teeny minds of poor whites.
Right. Like they're doing, like henceforth, Trump is doing now.
They got them to fight a war over some stuff that was holding them back. The Civil War was fought by a lot of broke behind white people who couldn't afford a slave if their life depended on it.
So they had to go to war.
But not only could they not afford a slave, the institution of slavery itself was keeping them unemployed.
Right. So hence, that's why they had to go to war to generate some kind of
to bring back unemployment.
And you know, but I don't understand. This is not rocket science.
Well,
this is not rocket science.
It's easier to be unemployed if you can give your woman a reason why. If slavery is going, I had to convince my woman that they just don't want to give me a job.
But now America, everybody's, today is a big election in a few states.
Yeah.
Vermont, Connecticut, Wisconsin. Now, Vermont used to be a blue state. Now the last election was turned to red state, along with Connecticut, along with Wisconsin. Now it's neck and neck. Now everybody's talking about this blue wave. If you look at the blue wave, that doesn't. So Congress runs. So the Democrats. If you did your homework about the Democrats versus the Republicans, you would see the Democrats were a lot worse than the Republicans. Because black people in the 1800s, they were known to be Republicans. Did you know that?
I can't believe. Yes,
they were Republicans.
Yes. The whole thing flipped around.
Right? Because the KKK,
Dixiecrats.
Yeah, the Dixiecrats, right?
They're cracker
KKK members, right? And all of a sudden it flipped.
Yeah.
But if you look at the history of the Democrats, they're no better than the Republicans.
Well,
excuse me.
Actually, the worst thing that ever happened was Hillary Clinton.
It really was. No, it was Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Well, Bill Clinton was a smooth operator. He was an operator.
Yeah, no,
he was.
He again.
You didn't see him sneaking behind you until it was over.
No, but he got you. But he convinced you of the garbage that he convinced the black, because the black people elected Bill Clinton.
Yes.
But under Bill Clinton's tutelage,
yes,
we had the highest rate of incarceration.
Right. But
So,
the interesting thing is not black folks. If you go in church, black folks are like Trump. If you say nice things about me, I'll give you a job.
Right. That's some slave master owner stuff.
It is. But Bill Clinton had, there was one thing about Bill Clinton that totally confused me when it came to Hillary. White women like Bill.
So does black women.
But white women don't like Hillary. White women kept Hillary from being elected. White women.
Because one, she's a threat. Two, they felt she went soft and she put up with Bill's stuff. Remember, when Bill came out, when that all came out, what else would it be?
I just get the feeling sometimes you don't like people.
Yeah, but there has to be a reason. Why the white women there were more black women that like Hillary than white women.
Yeah.
What? Why?
I don't think anybody liked Hillary, but I think more black people were pragmatic in their choices about Hillary versus Trump. But I think white women just flat out rejected Hillary.
Why? I would say because of the Bill Clinton when she was.
Take one and know one.
You got to play there. He said that. I didn't say that. He said that. I didn't say that. But you think about it. Hillary, if you look at the history of Hillary, Hillary ran the campaign for Goldwater, was it? Was it Goldwater? Guys, can you check that? I think it was Goldwater. Where Goldwater was the last, he didn't sign the Civil Rights Bill. So there is no, Hillary is just as much of a racist as Donald Trump.
Yeah, but I think that anyone else with Hillary Clinton's baggage would not have gotten the animosity from white women that Hillary Clinton got. Hillary Clinton lost white women 53-47.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
That they even voted for
that's insane.
A guy like
that's insane.
A chauvinistic pig like Trump.
I can't imagine. A black person running against a white person or any other kind of person and losing the black vote 53-47.
Yeah.
They would have to be Ben Carson or somebody, or Omarosa, or somebody really terrible to lose like that. I can't imagine a Jewish person running against non-Jews and losing a vote like that. There would have to be one terrible Jew. I can't imagine an Irish person running against non-Irish people and losing the Irish vote.
See, here's the thing.
53-47. They would have to be a terrible, terrible Irish person.
That is a good question.
A white woman to lose the white
female vote,
53-47. But there's something in play.
But we got to figure out. This is what this show is all about. Figuring out what was in play. What, in your opinion, I want to hear this. Nat, you already know. No, yes, you do. Nat would know. We're going to ask Nat. Yes, you do. I'm putting you on Front Street. You know why. Please tell me why. It's just not just like.
It takes one to know one. It takes one to know one. You know, there's some people that you just don't, especially women, especially family women with children and whatnot. There's always one other female
that just people can't stand.
Right, that women can't stand.
But let me ask you this: so much. But see, there's more than what we're seeing.
And it was a complete surprise. It wasn't even like they got together and came up with this. This was a surprise to everyone. So it wasn't this concerted effort to stigmatize Hillary that people could see on the surface.
But not then. Yeah, it has to be. I would have to go back to her husband Bill.
Bill?
But then what is it then?
White just love Bill.
But here's the thing then.
They still love Bill.
And he's fat
you're
pissed off. You're pissed off.
He's old and fat. And they still love him.
Right. But white women are so pissed off at Hillary that they would vote for a misogynist, idiot, rude, racist. So to not vote for Hillary.
I think two things happen.
But you also have to remember, he won the electoral vote and not the popular vote.
Yeah, but he won white women.
He did. He did.
I can understand the electoral vote because he won the electoral vote because he won the cracker vote.
He won the poor white trash.
And they hated Hillary because Hillary was the elitist, snotty, Eastern person that wanted to close their coal mines
but the coal mines were already closed.
Yeah, slap the pork out there.
But that has
slap the bacon off their plate.
But that's the ignorance of that base, of his base, is because the coal mines were already closed. Think about it.
Did you see the end of the clip? Where
the white supremacy, where that was called the mosh pit, if you guys didn't know. And the mosh pit was, I want to say, it was something of
That's how I got my hand injured. It slammed into me and busted up my hand. It was
something of a Nazi thing.
Yes, it was a skinhead
Nazi thing.
Right.
Where white supremacy right there, you could see just what they were chanting.
Right.
We're above the law.
Right, living above the law.
Living above the law. That's
actually a song from this group that was called Choke Victim.
There you go.
And it's this white. I'm reluctant to call them skinheads because it's not really a skinhead group.
Right. Well, metal?
But it is.
Metal?
Well, it's not metal. It's kind of part. It has a Jamaican feel at the end of it, but it's a punk rock ska. I think they call it punk ska.
Punk ska.
But
in New York City.
The lyrics, well, the early '90s, it was very, very big in
urban
pockets of
urban cities. Right.
It was big in places, pockets of New York.
Right.
It was big in pockets of just a whole lot of cities around the country, especially urban cities.
Right.
The words to it,
white supremacy.
The title of the song is "Crack Rock Steady."
Yeah, Crack Rock Steady, right?
Yeah. And
get that.
Yeah,
you know get that, right?
Yeah. Crack rock.
Crack rock, right?
Yeah,
right.
Crack rock steady. You know, Aretha just died.
Just said that, yeah. Rock Steady.
Rock Steady.
Rock Steady.
They came out with the song Crack Rock Steady.
Right.
So you know right away where they're coming from.
Right.
And the refrain to this song. And it's literally a white folks' anthem song.
Right.
Is living above the law.
Right, because we can't.
And the lyrics, they say things like,
F the police.
They don't just say F the police. They like kill the police.
Right.
Lick him by the asshole.
Right.
Just a whole lot of strange stuff, but what it shows more than anything is an unabashed freedom that black folks have never really had.
Why?
The closest black folks get to that is like praising the Lord in church.
Yeah, but you know what?
But
black people, listen. We don't have to live up to anybody's standards but our own.
No, we don't.
You know, just because.
No, we don't.
See, the thing of it is, just with this Omarosa and Trump thing.
Right.
Now, this is a prime example where he calls her a dog.
Right.
Now she got to go higher. She got to live up to his standard. To retaliate.
Right.
Instead of, it's not taking the low road. It's like. You're trying to prove to him that you're not a dog.
Right.
But you already know you're not a dog.
Correct.
So that's what's wrong with us as a race, that we have to, just because white society says that we're something, it's not we don't have to go and prove anything but to ourselves.
Not just, right. That's the only person you have to audition for is yourself. Getting back to the Supreme Court opinion in the Dred Scott decision, there was a bunch of interesting things that was noted in that opinion. The most significant thing that I keyed on, and it was literally like a bucket of ice water over my head when I realized just how convoluted our thinking has become.
Oh my God.
And how much we have taken on some of the aspects of that strange diatribe that the Supreme Court unleashed. That
opinion was 600 pages.
It was 600 pages. And the worst thing about it was not that its opinion was that the white man was inherently superior.
Right.
The worst thing about it was that the white man was inherently superior, and thus it was his job to enslave the black man for his benefit.
Oppress him, right?
Right. That they had no rights that the white man was bound to respect, and that by virtue of the black man's inferiority, you could do anything you wanted to them, which is not. If you go to a dictionary and look up the definition of better or inferior or superior, I'm quite sure that that would not be the definition affixed to it.
Right.
You know, if you look up the word savage, that might be the definition affixed to it, but certainly not the word better.
But you look at the definition of black and white. Black is dark, bad.
But this is my point. Assuming that everything you say is correct, assuming that you're very smart and that I'm very stupid, so assuming that you make so much more money than me and I make no money at all, assuming that by all tangible material aspects that we value and respect, that my hand is better than yours.
Right.
Does it follow that I then have the right to dog you and oppress?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
can
not.
Can I just go in the hospital
Absolutely
and
not.
because children have cerebral palsy,
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Right.
So this whole thing about superior, inferior, we know it's not true.
Right.
But assuming that it was, it still does not give you the right to dog people out. And this was a strange, logical conclusion that this Supreme Court decision handed down.
But Nat, look at the Dred Scott.
It's kind of pathetic.
It's very pathetic. But look at how African Americans fought back, civil rights, fought back, the 70s, fought back against Jim Crow laws.
Correct.
We fought back and said we weren't taking it anymore.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden, we're back where we started.
But we spent too much time trying to prove ourselves equal to or better than the white man. And the white man should have worked on his noodle. You know, because that stuff that came out of Taney's mouth was doo-doo.
It was garbage. It was garbage.
It was garbage.
It was garbage.
You know,
but he believed his own hype. And he
again, we come here every week, and every week I do a whole bunch of stuff that people think are cute little things to do.
No, not right.
That don't give me the right to dog people out.
No,
that don't give me the right, and that thinking seems to be in the Supreme Court.
Right.
That thinking seems to be in the police department, where the police just recently, and you talk about a black man in the Supreme Court just recently, and there's a lawsuit about this. A Latino guy, Hispanic officer named Nunez, choked out a Latino for some sort of noise complaint while he was closing up his business. Somebody called him. He choked his ass out. He took the guy's radio and choked him out. He could have killed him. This is crazy. You have white people. The thing with the dude just in Florida, stand your ground.
But because of that, the Florida is revisiting stand your ground law, a day late and a dollar short.
White folks need to revisit their thinking process, because
but you know what,
all of this is some barbaric, savage,
but here's the thing.
Crap that needs to be in the waste paper bin.
but here's the thing. We know white people are not going to change their way of thinking. So that means we need to step up our game. Now, I don't condone.
That is true.
I don't condone violence.
That is true. I'm not sure that white people don't have the capacity to grow.
It's not a question of growth.
There seems to be resilient to.
But it's not a real question of growth. It's not. We have nothing to do with white people and how they grow.
No, we don't. The
only person we can control is ourselves.
That's a personal problem.
So what we need to do is step our game back up.
That is correct. That is correct.
Again, I don't condone violence, but if you come at me like that, I'm gonna come at you with a bigger force, because that's the only way it's going to stop. And most people say it's condoning violence. I'm not condoning violence at all, but I'm not gonna let you run me over.
I think we spend too much time trying to save white folks' souls. First of all, you can't. I know y'all think Jesus saves. Jesus ain't never saved nobody's soul.
No.
The only person who can save your soul is you.
Yourself. Yeah.
Is you.
Let me ask you this.
Jesus might have opened the road to heaven.
Right.
That has to do with reward and forgiveness. That does not have to do with saving your soul.
You have to save
yourself. The only one who can save your soul is you.
How do you save the soul of a nation?
The nation has to save its own soul.
But how? How do you save? Change your way of thinking.
The nation tried, but the nation is comprised of different forces, positive and negative. And as soon as the nation makes a move, there is an uprising. Donald Trump right now is leading he's the spokesperson.
That's true.
He's JT Taylor of Kool in the Gang.
He really is. Because Kool in the Gang didn't even become cool until JT Taylor. They've been around a long time, but until JT came in, they stepped up their game.
I mean, they was playing the jazz and all, but they needed him with his little afro, Joanna.
That's a great analogy, because that took them to a whole nother level.
A whole nother level.
That's a whole nother
level.
That's a great
analogy.
That's
what Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is the lead singer of white supremacy.
But we need to contain that.
He's not the most important player. He's not the producer.
No.
But he's the lead singer.
He's a front man.
He's the one who packs the crowd.
Right. He's a front man. He's a front man.
Right.
But now you got to contain the front man. At the same time, not keeping your eye on the prize.
And
are we capable of doing that?
Apparently we're not even capable of seeing what it is, because we think all of these separate issues are separate issues.
No, they're not.
And they're all related.
Totally.
Like I said, out of the Dred Scott decision, out of that decision came the Civil War and the 14th Amendment. And all of those things that are being revoked, people now think are just their thing.
No.
Like women's rights. Right. Women think that they're this special entity.
Right.
So when you talk about abortion rights, when you talk about all of these things that the Supreme Court and the conservative right is trying to revoke, they think that these are separate issues.
No, they're not.
All of these issues were related to that one decision and the subsequent Civil War and the subsequent winning and the 14th Amendment.
Because you know what happened?
States' rights over federal rights over states' rights. All of it is related.
Because once
the immigration issues, brown skin immigration. Brown skin immigration is a direct result of the civil rights era.
That's exactly right. Now,
it's all related.
People, you don't get it. Please note, once the 5-4 majority conservative, they can change the language in the 14th Amendment.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
This is serious. This is not something that we're making up. You can look up the Koch brothers.
Right.
Look up the Heritage Foundation. Look it up. All these think tanks are nothing more than these groups that are trying to change the Constitution.
Right.
Guys, that affects us. Don't get it twisted.
Right.
You don't think they could try to bring us back? They're trying to take away our civil rights.
They're trying to do it. They're trying to reestablish states' rights every chance they get.
Right.
They use little funny things, and they're trying to. The whole thing that Trump was doing yesterday when he signed the defense bill.
Now, let's talk about that. Look, Senator McCain. If you guys don't know, Donald Trump signed Senator John McCain defense funding, which is $716 billion. And as you know, John McCain was a war hero that was a POW in Vietnam.
Prisoner of war.
Thank you for your service, Senator McCain. Now, with that said, when Donald Trump signed the bill, he did not mention John McCain at any time. At any time.
Well, that was the insult to the injury, but the bill itself, the bill itself is staggering.
Right.
Because they're cutting funding for everything.
They cut funding for HUD?
There's only so much. Even the United States can't print the amount of money that they're spending.
Right. But we surely don't have anything to back it.
And we some money printing.
And with nothing to back it.
Correct. The military budget of the United States is staggering. It's beyond comprehension. It is.
But it still doesn't make us the strongest force in the world with all the money that we're spending.
But it's just a weapon machine.
But for what though, Nat?
But you're taking money out of the mouths of babies. You're actually engaging in trade wars with countries all over all over the world.
Why can't his base see that?
Even those countries that because he's gonna get.
But let me tell you something, guys.
The blacks and the Jews and the homosexuals and the abortionists and
I'm gonna tell you how screwed up.
We're gonna take it back and we're gonna work in the coal mine.
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. You're gonna be standing as a greeter in Walmart.
Yep, pork chops. right. No more of this chicken in every pot.
We're gonna pork chops in every pot.
Twinkie in every fried and bacon grease.
We lead the nation in 3 things.
Yeah.
We lead the nation in incarceration. Per capita.
Right.
We lead the nation in the number of adults that believe angels are real.
Yeah.
We lead the nation in the most spending for military.
Yeah.
And where does that get us?
Yeah.
We're still not the most powerful person in the world, powerful country in the world.
Yeah.
And this is clearly, I still haven't seen any evidence of being the greatest country in the world. Well, look at this. There's 207 sovereign nations in the world. 180 of them are free. Think about it.
It was a cute trick to say make America great again, because great is a word that is subject to interpretation.
Just like law.
Right. So what is great? Great is whatever it means to you.
Right.
It's a word with no meaning.
Right.
If you were doing a survey and you asked the guy on the telephone, what did he think about that chocolate bar, and he said it's great. Right. You would ask him to be specific. What do you mean by great? Because the word in and of itself has no definition.
No definition at all. So it's about personal opinion.
Right. So you would have to be specific. Oh, the chocolate is just a little bit sweet. It's not too sweet. And it's smooth and it melts. You'd have to be specific. You'd have to say exactly what you mean by great, because 10 people can hand the same word and have completely different meanings about what it means.
Right.
Donald Trump was talking to a specific audience.
Yes.
And they defined it in their mind.
But they all defined it the same way.
They all defined it the same way.
It's to put the minority back where they think is in its place.
That is correct.
And that's real. And that's real.
That is correct.
That is real.
And we do the same thing. We talk about God and religion, and the conservative right, when they talk about religion and religion's rights, they are not talking about the same thing
that we're talking about. That black people are talking about. Right.
The black people are talking about Jesus and forgiveness.
And going to heaven.
The conservative are talking about conquering.
Right. It's a corporation. Religion to them is corporation.
Right.
See, he who has the most money rules.
Right.
That's not democratic at all.
Correct. But in order, but you thinking that their definition is not valid, is not rational, because their definition is valid to them.
Right. Just
and
like
they're not going to change their definition
but just like
you.
Our definition of religion is supposedly valid to us.
Correct.
But
correct.
It goes back to this, though, Nat. The black church is praying to this God, to our God,
Right.
to help us.
And that's why you can't save someone's soul. You can only deal with the ramifications of their actions.
Right.
You can't save their soul. They're the only ones who can save their soul. Amazing Grace, save a wretch like me.
Right.
Was that black folks sing that? I mean, they sing that better than
President
anything,
Obama singing.
but they didn't write that.
No, a white person wrote that.
A
slave owner
wrote that. Not a slave owner, a guy who transported slaves,
right,
which is even more horrible than a slave owner.
Right.
Some of the slave owners had slaves that they were kind to.
Right.
Wasn't nobody kind to nobody on them ships.
No. That's true.
You chained them, packed them in, and got them over.
Right.
But that's who wrote that song.
Right.
You cannot save someone else's soul.
Right.
They can only save their own soul.
Amen.
And we keep trying to save America. No, we're going to have to deal with the ramifications.
Save
we're going to have
ourselves.
to understand the ramifications. That's why every week we talk about not just voting.
Right.
But understanding the process.
Yes.
You got to
There you
understand.
go,
You can't just vote because this person looks like that or that person looks like that.
I want to tell you, if you guys can pull up, we got, what, 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Pull up the Aretha Franklin something.
We'll get Aretha Franklin. Don't worry. I got Aretha.
Okay, you got Aretha.
Yeah.
This is a great show, as usual. Thank you. Guys, remember this. We bring it to you every week, uncut and real.
Yeah.
You don't have to like us, but you do have to understand where we're coming from. We're not. This is not our opinion. This is something that's what it is.
And I'll tell you one more thing. We almost out of time. But I know one thing that Donald Trump and his observers, his constituents don't appreciate. For all time, the last president that the Queen of Soul performed for at the White House
was President Obama.
Was that?
And she put it. She took
Black Harvard.
But wait, took it to the point where it brought tears to his eyes.
Oh, it stole the show.
It stole the show,
And everybody there said, "This is the Queen."
Even the woman who wrote this song, Carole King, just lost it. Guys, remember this: shoot for the moon. If you miss, you're still among the stars. I'm Greg Lassiter for 30 Frames.
I'm Nat Wood. We are privileged to be able to come to you and have this dialogue, this conversation. Hopefully it inspires some thought and some action, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. Thank you, Greg Lassiter. I want to thank Sheila Berry and Veronica Kitt and everybody
who makes us work.
Lou the model, Luciera the model.
But also remember, guys, we're on in Brooklyn, we're on in the Bronx, we're on in Queens. So check us out.
Say bye.
Ciao, we're out.